Okay, so I am Robert Beal, and you are watching an episode of the Bealcast podcast, and we are here at the Latin Education Collaborative, and we're grateful for the opportunity to film here. And so, yeah, so I know for a fact that I do not have Lisa Brosniak here with me. I have Lisa Brosniak. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Do not feel bad about mispronouncing the name.
Okay.
Everybody does.
Okay. Well,
we're still friends.
I don't want to be like everybody else, so it irritates me that in fact that happened. And so why don't you say like what you do, like, you know, what's your job?
My job is I sell private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
So the stuff you have to pay, the insurance you pay when you don't have 20% down to put down on a home.
Right. So I thought we would kind of talk about something sexy tonight, and that's like one of the reasons why we're doing mortgage insurance. And then I've got John Blank with me, who I go kind of sort of not really back with in the car business, but I mean, so what do you do?
Yeah, so somewhat kind of full circle, not full circle, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a investment advisor and agency director for insurance financial services company. So I help people prepare for retirement while protecting them along the way.
Okay, so we're going to take a couple calls with people wanting some investment advice.
Perfect.
Is this the form? No, that's
right.
That's a joke. And so the thing that I think is cool about having both of you guys on is the fact that you are oddly pivotal in the fact that like I'm in the mortgage business. And so I had known of you, but I don't know that I'd ever had a conversation with you when I was in the car business.
Yeah.
You had left, you'd gone into financial planning. I had seen a post that you had on LinkedIn about like taking a leap, and it was like the best thing for you. Yeah. And I was like, I need to make a change, and I'll reach out and have a conversation with you. And so I had lunch with you, and it ultimately led to my resume, I believe, going to Elisa here.
That's
and
right.
Now I'm in the mortgage business.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And so how did it happen? Did I gave you my resume, and then you like passed it on, and then you passed it on to Bison? Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. So John reached out to me because he knew that I connect with, most of the banks and credit unions and mortgage companies in Kansas and Missouri, and said, I've got a friend that wants to make the leap into the mortgage business. And you and I, he emailed it over to me, and then you and I jumped on the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got a wealth of companies that I'd love to introduce you to. And we chatted, and I thought of one or two that I thought you'd be a great fit for. And that's when I introduced you to a local lender here.
Yeah, so it was Bison is where you had a connection with somebody in HR there.
Yes. Yep.
You know, the interesting thing about that is I was like, God, that was a great conversation. Like, she's got me like fired up, like something could actually happen, because I was having a hard time getting a job because nobody wanted to train people at the time because there was a huge refi boom. But then I didn't expect anything to come of it because like nothing had come of it. And then I think I got a call from maybe Emily Sappingfield or somebody, and then it just like sort of took off. And so for me, it's been a big move making the jump from the car business to like mortgages, but like you made a big transition as well, right? Yeah. So why don't you talk about a little bit of your background, and then just because, I mean, you're in your 40s?
Yeah. Well, I was mid-30s when I changed,
Mid-30s, okay. But still, like you were down the path in a career, you had like kind of stability, you have family, you have all the American dream, and you're like, let's blow this up and try something new.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what happened. I mean, we were in a situation where, I mean, I always say we had, I'd stay-at-home wife at home. We had 3 kids, and we had a house, a mortgage, and an SUV, right? Yeah. And so, like you said, I mean, it was like stereotypical deal. And, I didn't have a lot of formal education, going into what I did with the car business and things like that.
So you kind of came up on the streets, right? Gangbanger?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So, I mean, as far as, working in that business, I mean, it was great to me. It gave me an opportunity to build myself up and take care of our family and, make a good income and things like that. But the issue was I was never home. Yeah. Right. And it just got to the point where I knew there was something bigger and there was something else that I wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough. I mean, same thing for you, right? You're getting an opportunity because of, just networking and things like that to change what you wanted to do. It was the same thing for me, right? Yeah. So I had, somebody through our warm circle and things like that our kids were friends and ended up taking a leap of faith, right? And I always say, the worst thing that's going to happen is bank's going to take my house. We can always start back over. Right. I know there's always a job back in the car business for me if I need it, but we kind of burnt the boats and start it over?
Well, so I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Jared Coates. I name drop everybody. I just think it's part of like what I do. I was talking to him today, and he was talking about he'd made a job change. And he was, I don't know if he was doing a presentation. He was nervous about it, and I'm like, dude, the worst that can happen is you can end up with 2 divorces, and like change careers in your mid 40s. And he kind of laughed because that's like what I did. And the fact is, like, you can always sort of take that risk. We it doesn't mean it's not risky, but you can do it at any point. Now, did you like grow up thinking, man, I'm going to be a rep for MGIC, like private mortgage insurance is like what I'm about? Is that what your path was?
No, not at all. But I did grow up in the mortgage industry.
Okay.
So my mom was a mortgage loan officer. Started back in as I said before, way back in the 1900s.
That's crazy.
So she was a loan officer when it started back in the 1980s. And I grew up listening to my mom take loan applications over the phone.
Yeah.
And when I was 19 and I left college and decided that the college was not my route, my mom drug me kicking and screaming into the mortgage industry.
Okay. So you were going to school, and did you drop out?
Like, I did. I left college. It wasn't for me. I did end up going back to college later in life. So that ended up being a better fit down the road for me.
Yeah.
But I already knew the mortgage industry. My mom talked me into interviewing with the company she was at when I was 19 years old. And turns out I already knew all the lingo.
Yeah.
I already knew the importance of a good credit score. I knew what DTI meant. I knew what LTV meant, and how long it took to get an appraisal. I knew all these things already. I'd already been, by osmosis, I'd already been hearing it all. So,
and because you had that background and you saw your mom do it, were you like, I don't want to do that, and like try to go down like a different path, or was it always something that you knew you could sort of do?
I didn't think I wanted to do it because my mom was always working, or so I thought.
Yeah.
However, I just got it. I understood it, and that intrigued me. And I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. She had an amazing boss, Gary Johnson. I'm going to drop names too,
why
since
not?
you are.
That's what we do.
And he was such an amazing person. And my processing manager at the time, Janice Bright, dropping another name.
Yeah, right on.
Taught me everything I know with my mom and Janice and Gary. And within a year, I honestly thought at 19 years old that I was working for the company I was going to retire for.
Really?
And so I never looked back.
Yeah.
And that was back in 1997. And fast forward to 2025, I'm still in this industry.
Yeah. And so when you went to school, what were you going to school for?
Well, when I finally did go to school.
Well, originally, or did you have a plan, or you were
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I just went because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
No. So when I did finally go back to school, it was just business management. I just wanted to finally just get the piece of paper.
Right on. Did you go to college?
So I tried for a little while.
Yeah. Me too. I get it.
It wasn't for me.
Right.
So I didn't go back. So.
Well, what were you studying like or did you have a plan?
Your stage is falling apart here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't know what the heck's going on.
I'm sorry. I stopped by Micro Center and got that cable, and I'm wondering if I got like a quality cable.
Yeah, I can't hear you anyway. So
seriously, it's not working?
No, seriously.
Oh,
but that's
man.
okay.
All right.
No, it's fine. So, sorry, what was the question?
No, what did you go to school for? Or what
so,
did you
yeah,
think
just
you were
business
gonna do?
management, same thing.
God.
We're going to not use
all
that.
right. Well, if it's for effect, I mean, we'll have to,
Yeah,
we'll edit all of this out. So I feel like in some ways we're just like perpetually like 90% of the way to where I want this podcast to be.
Absolutely.
Like there's always something. The 10% tonight is that particular cable. So
That's okay.
Makes it more fun.
You're always moving forward. That's all right.
So so you went back.
I did.
And you got a degree. Do you feel like you missed out by not getting a degree? I mean, how do you look back on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to, do it over again, I think the biggest piece that it does is it keeps you, maybe from the relationships that you're able to build, right, through the college experience. But the other side too is, maybe leaving where I grew up for a little while.
Right.
I think that's another big one. And I think the last part would probably be just the flexibility that the piece of paper does give you on the back end, to where, the career I was in, like I enjoyed it. I mean, obviously here we are, right? I had a lot of great lifelong friendships and, things like that, what I was able to form and on the job training that I think helped me, propel into where I am today, from just a lot of life skills that I learned. Right. But at the same time, I think when I was in that position, I felt like I was stuck.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
and you're talking about when you were in the car business.
Yeah.
Right.
And just kind of thought this is what I'm going to do. Right. And there's nothing wrong with it, but
so I want to say something. The difference between you and I and most of the people that I've had on that have been tied to the car business is we've all been like front end sales guys.
Sure.
I mean, Rick, was a GM, but so you were in the service department. You were a service writer.
Correct.
So you were still selling, like you were just like being like, hey, you need to like change tires too, or hey, you need to do this particular service.
Yeah. My job was just make sure you are not on the side of the road. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Just, yeah.
Okay. And so do you feel like, your experiences, the things that you learned in that environment, I mean, do they carry over to what you're doing as far as financial planning?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just from a sales aspect, right? And from just interacting with people.
Okay.
You had to learn. I mean, you had to learn how to build a relationship in 15 seconds, and that definitely transpires into
I've always thought that job would just suck. Like nobody's coming into, you know what I mean? Nobody's like going into a service department because they're like, man, today is the day I do my oil change.
I am excited.
Please recommend some service, right?
Yeah.
Like I was planning on spending this, but come on, like upsell me on it. Like, I mean, at least at the car, like you get a car, right? You get it, but here it's like I have the same car. Maybe it's vacuumed out. But,
yeah.
So I don't know. I think it takes somebody like special to sell that.
Yeah.
So I had to have something that you had to see and touch, which is different now because I'm doing mortgages, which is, again, I mean, financial products are not something you just walk around with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah. And so the transition for you into that business, I mean, what was the scare? I mean, what were the things that like I'm sure you were like, okay, we need to save, we need to be prepared, we're going to have these hurdles. What were the things that like you weren't surprised by, or you were surprised by in making that move?
I mean, I think I was prepared for it.
Okay.
Right. Because ironically, for what I do now, and my mentor, the person that hired me, Gene Chartier, that brought me into the business, he did a really good job, and we slow played this for probably 2 years before I made a jump. And before that had happened, I'd probably gone to lunch or interviews with, very similar individuals with kind of somewhat similar companies. It was just never the right fit. And so, me and him spent a lot of time together. Our family spent a lot of time together, talking about it was going to be hard. Like it was going to be, and so I think the other side of that too. So I've got, my boss and mentor, Gene, and then I've got my wife, Gina. Okay. And I kind of talk low. I kind of mumble sometimes. So I got to always make sure, separate those two. But with those two, I think I heard a video one time from Les Brown, and he said, sometimes you've got to believe in other people's belief in yourself before you can believe it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that was really the biggest part of my first year.
Okay.
Right. Because those two, for whatever, reason, were like, you've got this, you can do this, and just kept me going, but outbound prospecting was very difficult.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part of my job.
Yeah. I mean, that's
right.
that. And it's interesting because I was having this conversation with my owner, like in the car business, like they just keep coming to you.
Yes.
And then having to make that transition where I had to like go out and like find business. But that's what you're effectively outside sales, right? I mean, business to business.
100% outside sales.
I mean, so like why don't you kind of tell me like what's a day in the life of an MGIC rep? Like, what are you?
Well, so that's difficult now. Pre-pandemic, it was a very different picture than it is today. But typically, what I'd love to do is schedule 2 to 3 standing appointments.
Yeah.
And I love for one of them to be lunch because who doesn't want to eat?
Yeah.
But have 2 or 3 core appointments, and then I love to just pop in places.
Yeah.
The difficult part now is a lot of folks don't work in offices anymore. Everybody is remote. Why wouldn't you be? We found out in 2020 and 21 and 22 that works really, really well in this industry, in the mortgage industry. So now it is a lot more of having to plan those appointments or activities.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things I get to do with Fountain Mortgage is I just find out what fun things you guys are doing, and then I crash it.
Right.
So
That's
I
a
do
pretty
lot
good
of
gig,
that.
to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and
it's now I just find the fun things
yeah,
that my lenders do, and I say, "Can I come?"
yeah. I mean, so I've found that in my job, I just kind of like I get up in the morning and I find a coffee shop and I just go find some, and I'll have meetings and stuff scheduled that I'll go do. If somebody like has to reschedule or something else, I just find like another meeting to have. But I'm like always out and about and trying to just like engage people and have different conversations. I have had I enjoy going into the office too. And so it's weird because like in my business, like I'm probably in the office. I'm out all the time, but I'm probably in the office like as consistently as anybody else. And I enjoy that energy and being around people. And so, I mean, for me, I've found that this job has been just like it's been a perfect fit. There was a risk in making the jump. And I did it at a time when like just as the market just like completely fell apart right at the beginning of 2020, 22. But it's been a really good transition for me. And so like in one of the opportunities that I have with this podcast is I can drop some like mortgage related knowledge. You know, I try to like just not be work all the time, but like, why do we have mortgage insurance? Why is there private mortgage insurance?
Great question.
Yeah.
So fun fact, I work for the company I work for. It's called MGIC, Mortgage Guarantee Insurance Company. And I like to say we're the OG.
Yeah.
We are the original gangster. We invented mortgage insurance in 1957.
Okay.
We invented mortgage insurance because in 1957, prior to that, you could not purchase a home a conventional loan, unless you had 20% down.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it. It was not an option. You could go FHA, which that product still exists today, and that is still a very, very important product.
Yeah.
It serves a very important need in this industry. But up until then, banks were not willing to take on that much risk in a home purchase. So we invented that product that now we say, hey, Mr. Bank, we will share in that risk with you. We created this unique insurance product, and we said, if you'll allow a homeowner to put less money down so they can purchase this property and put less and borrow more, we'll take on that risk with you.
Yeah.
So should that property go into default and unfortunately into foreclosure, we will help cover those costs. We will write a giant check with you, and therefore they're much more comfortable extending that risk.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because a lot of times when you talk to people, they sort of look at the mortgage insurance as like, this is like a negative, this is an additional expense. This is a negative thing. I need to get to a point where I have the 20% down so I can buy a house or whatever. And I can do it like the smart way. But the reality is it opens up everybody's buying power is immediately bigger, right? Because a first time home buyer can put 3% down, or if you own before, you can do 5%. You can go with conventional, and so it allows you to like purchase a home, which in the U.S. is like the most stable, consistent way to like kind of like jumpstart wealth building, but it leaves some money left over potentially that maybe you can do something a little like, more strategic with, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, so we got to bust some myths here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have to. Couple quick things. Today, houses are, we've all been watching the price of homes.
Yeah.
The value of homes have gone up astronomically.
Yeah.
If you have 20% down, that's fantastic. If you've only got 20% down, the biggest mistake you can make is take all of that money and put it down on a house. That right there is a giant mistake.
Yeah.
If you've got millions and millions of dollars and 20% down is nothing but a drop in the bucket to you, that's fantastic. Put 20% down. The myth that we need to bust is mortgage insurance is what it is it's the original down payment assistance program.
Yeah.
It's not what it was. This is not your mama's MI anymore. It is so much less expensive than it used to be.
Yeah.
It is no longer a hindrance to buying a home.
Yeah.
It's significantly cheaper than it used to be. Why wouldn't you put less money down? Mortgage interest is the only interest that actually works for you. It's the only interest that is currently tax deductible.
Yeah.
Keep that money in the bank and then call my friend John Blank and talk about ways that you can put that money to work in a different way.
Yeah.
Put it towards your retirement. Talk about other benefits that you can use to help make yourself richer in other ways. And then guess what? That house is going to keep appreciating and growing in other wealthy ways. And that private mortgage insurance is going to fall off. It goes away after a few years.
Yeah. Yeah, I bought my condo in 2021, and we just like 3 months ago, we in the same mortgage, we haven't changed anything, but I saw the property values around us, and so I did the appraisal, and it just fell off, and so I was like picking up like some extra money, but if you're not building value in the original down payment assistance program, Lisa, I mean, what are you doing? Like, what are your passions? I mean, I assume you have family, you have kids. Like, what? I mean, tell me what's the stuff behind the mortgage insurance that people should know about, Lisa?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I do have kids.
Okay.
I've got.
Where are you from originally? This area?
No, I have an interesting background. So I was born in Dallas, lived there for a couple of years, then moved to Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Lived there. I am a twin. I have a twin sister.
Really? Do you know what she's doing right now? Can you tell? Is she cold or warm?
She's fraternal, so she's night and day. We did share a womb, but not the same. But we're fraternal, so night and day. So no, I don't know what she's doing.
Okay.
We're the exact same height. That's the only thing that is the same about us.
Okay, that's cool.
I also have twin sisters.
Okay.
So there's 2 sets of us.
But that's like a thing that does happen in families, right? Like if you have twins, you're gonna have multiple. Okay, right on.
So anyway, born in Dallas, then we moved to Oklahoma City, and then my mom moved us here to Kansas City right before we turned 9.
Okay.
So been in Kansas City since then. So Kansas City, Missouri is my home.
Right.
So I am married. My husband Dave and I live in Liberty, Missouri.
Yeah.
Across the street from my friend here, John Blank.
Nice.
And we've got 2 kids and 2 dogs. I am a giant dog person.
Okay.
I love animals.
Like big dogs? Like you like giant dogs,
no,
or
I
you just like enthusiastic about
dogs.
you love
Yeah.
the dogs? Okay, I gotcha.
I'm a giant enthusiastic dog lover.
What type of dogs do you have?
So right now I've got a beagle.
Okay.
And then she was supposed to be a beagle mix, but she catfished us. So,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she's, we rescued her from a beagle a beagle rescue, and she is not a beagle.
Yeah, like beagle tinder is like known for that. It's like a cesspool.
Yes.
That's why most beagles are like unhinged nowadays. Like if they're serious, if they're on there for the right reasons.
Yeah. She sure looked like a beagle mix puppy, and she was not her picture when we got her.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.